Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us, and welcome to the 75 Days of Partition series. I am Azim Khan, a story scholar at the Archive and a South Asian Studies lecturer. This is day 72 of hosting esteemed guests for this series, which will continue till August 17th. Today, it is an honor to welcome Malkit Singh Ghumaan. Malkit has been working with the 1947 Partition Archive since 2014. Currently, he is coordinator of the Oral History Program Research and Development in Northwest India, along with being a field officer. He has recorded more than 100 interviews. His first interview was recorded in 2014, and the last one was recorded in June 22. His interviews are recorded in the Malerkotla region. He has organized various seminars in colleges and universities of Punjab on behalf of the archive. He has also worked as a language teacher in the development of school education in Punjab, India. He has done his MA in History, English Literature, and Sikh Studies from Punjabi University, Patiala. Thank you for joining us, Malkit. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Azim. Thank you so much. I am pleased to be a part of this great conversation. Thank you for inviting me.
Please bear with us. We're just having some issues. Hi, Malkit. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, so I'll dive straight into the questions. Please tell us how your interest in partition studies started, Malkit.
Uh, so first of all, I belong to a migrated family. My great parents were living in the district of Sialkot. Village name is Raja Ghumaan. It is in Tehsil Dakka, I think. So first of all, I belong to the migrated family. So in my family, it's a common practice. It was a common practice to hear the stories of partition. How did they came here? What happened there? What did they saw in the way? And how reached there according to the land allocation. So it was a common oral history in every migrated family on the both sides, East and West Punjab especially. So first of all, I had interest uh, to being a third generation person of the migrated family.
And you've been associated with the archive for a very long time. How has your journey been so far?
Uh, so one day I was reading a newspaper, online newspaper, where I came to know that an NGO is working to record the oral history of partition. So as I have already told that I belong to a migrated family. So I was very much interested to listen to hear the stories of the partition. So the article was about Dr. Ganita Singh Bala, how she is recording the interview and her NGO 1947 partition is working to save the history for the coming generation. So it created too much interest in my heart. So I searched the website. It was available on the Google then, and then I searched the website. Then while searching the website, I came across the whole process, how they record the stories, how they preserve the stories, and what is the important to record the oral history. So as I am living in the city of Malerkotla, I just 10 kilometers away from the Malerkotla city. So this region has a special role in the partition. So I had mainly two or three questions. So I wanted to clarify from the archive. If you are going to record the oral history, if you have started this initiative to preserve the stories for the coming generation, what do you know about the role of the Malerkotla region? And have you heard the name of Nawab Sher Muhammad Khan? Especially, it was my question. So for this, so then I had to register for a webinar. You know that this is the process of the archives. When we first communicate, it's our first step to attend a webinar. So I registered for a webinar. Then I got a training also, and so it was very interesting experience. But I don't want to be a volunteer for archive. I just want to clarify my questions from them because I am
Okay,
a
and
chief.
sorry for to interrupt you, Malkit. Could you please speak up a little louder?
Sorry, no problem, no problem.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
after getting the training from the archive and through the webinar, so I recorded my first interview in 2014. It was the interview of my own aunt Taiji in Punjabi, you can say that, and I recorded it. So there was different circumstances as in 2022. So I first of all I hired a studio person, and he came to my home with his camera, with his tripod, etc. Then we recorded the story. It's wonderful. It's very clear to you. So within 1 month after getting the training on the through the webinar, we have to submit a story or recorded interview completely. So I submitted my interview. Then they contacted me, and they motivated me to join the archive. So later, when I got a chance to meet Dr. Ganita, her personality influenced me very much because she has roots in Punjab, and she met me in Ludhiana, and she motivated me to work for archive. So then I started and decided to be a volunteer for the archive, and I applied for the Story Scholar program. Then I joined it and started my recording.
And before I ask you about some of your most impactful interviews, please tell us more about the significance of Malerkot with regards to partition.
Yeah, Malerkotla is a city in Malwa region of Punjab. So it's a small city. The wonderful thing is that in these days, at present, and 70% population of this city is Mohammedan population. So all around the area, the Muslims migrated to the West Punjab during the time of violence that happened in the 1947 partition. You know very well. But Malerkotla, from the city of Malerkotla, not a single person was forced to migrate it. By choice, some went there. It's another fact. The Malerkotla has a direct history, a long history with the Sikhism. So if I start it, why when everywhere it was a violence in the neighboring states like Faridkot state, like Naba state, like if you can say that Patiala Riyasat, there were a lots of violations. Brutality was everywhere, but the only a small state remained 100% peaceful. There was no instance of violence, there was no killing, there was no adopting, and people were safe there. So there are reasons behind it. It has a long history. So long history, I mean to say that it is a 200 and about 42 years ago in 7005 when the 10th Guru's younger Sahibzada Ajit Singh and Sahibzada Jorawar Singh and Sahibzada Fateh Singh were being bricked alive by the governor of Sarhand state, Wazir Khan. The Nawab of Malerkotla was there. Then Nawab of Malerkotla raised the voice in the favor of the small children, and he clearly said to the Wazir Khan, it is the against the teachings of Quran to execute a children. If you want to fight, then fight with their father. So even he wrote a letter to the then the king of emperor of the Hindustan Aurangzeb, but in vain. In the end, Wazir Khan bricked alive Sahibzadas, and when the news came to 10th Guru of Sikhs, Sahib Shri Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj, uh, then he also came to know that Nawab Sher Muhammad Khan was against the tyrannical order of Wazir Khan. So then Guru Gobind Singh Maharaj sent him a sword as a gift, and he gave him a blessings for his riyast, and he said his riyast will prosper in future also. So Sikh community, wherever they are living, wherever in the world they are living, they had a special regard for the Nawab Sher Muhammad Khan's family and his riyast, especially Riyast Malerkotla. So, so many interviews I have recorded. The Muslim peoples who migrated from the Riyast Patiala, Riyast Lava, and they told me that it is also a part of oral history all over the world and especially in this area. But on record, so many Mohammedan people, when I interviewed them, they told their stories. Rahmate, a lady, then she was married, she had three children also. Then they migrated from a village near Khanna to Malerkotla. So when I asked them, I recorded this interview in 2015. When I asked them, why did you came to Malerkotla instead of going to Pakistan? If you are leaving your village, then the next destination for the most Mohammedan people was a Pakistan, because the dividation was on the basis of religion, and violence in the both sides was on the basis of religion. But then, why did you choose to going to Malerkotla? Then she clearly said that Malerkotla was a safe for Mohammedan. It is very clear. Then we came to know that Sikh people don't attack if we successfully reach in the territory of the Malerkotla. So uh, her relatives were living in the nearby village called Talair. Talair village is near in Malerkotla. So then she and her family decided to move to their relatives. They were living in Malerkotla, and they were safe there. There was no attack. Rahmate told me that the same story was told by me, a person who migrated from the Naba Riyas, Jan Muhammad. Jan Muhammad. He told the same story, and Muhammad Hanif told the same story. So lots of interviews, on record interviews, told me that then we prefer to go to Malerkotla instead of going to Pakistan because it's too far from us. So our first decision, our first priority was to reach in Malerkotla. If we would successfully reach there, then we will be safe there. So six people don't attack there. Even I met so many local residents, local Sikh residents. They were young then. They saw all things in their life. They think then. Gurcharan Singh I recorded. He's from village Sarao, which is a near, just a near village. It's in Malerkotla area. He told me that clearly. So there was a violence all around. People were attacking, especially the Mohammedan people were attacking by the Jathas. You understand Jathas very well. They they were attacked by the Jathas. But when a refugee or any victim or any innocent people successfully reached in the Riyast of Malerkotla, in the territory of Malerkotla, then he was saved then. Nobody dared to attack him. So mainly this city has the special and great relevance with the 1947 partition and the violence.
And could you please tell us some of the most interesting stories that you've gathered in your 8 years with the archive?
There are so many stories I gathered. So actually, it's our archives policy also, and it's my personal opinions also. So every interview is important. A person, common person's interview, common person's tragedy is same as the VIPs. So common person to VIPs and world famous personalities I have recorded. I recorded Fauja Singh, a veteran Sikh athlete. He was 107 years old when I recorded him, and Dr. Gunita uh, gave me the tip to record him. Actually, he came to India. Mainly, he's living in abroad. When he came to India, I recorded him. He was 107 years old then, and I recorded Dr. Kirpal Singh. It's a very well-known Sikh historian. He was teacher in Pakistan in the village Komoki in I think in Shekhupura district. He was teacher there during the partition, and then after partition he became here professor in Punjabi University Patiala, and he did a tremendous work in the field of history, in especially for the history of Sikhism and for the history of partition. And Inderjit Singh JG is another example. And one most important interview for me, I recorded Sardar Prahlad Singh. He was born in Thoha Khalsa in Rawalpindi. Thoha Khalsa is a place where I think the first place where the violence started in on 12 of March in 1947. So he was there. He was victim of that violence, and he lost his family members. And he told me that a Muslim person lost his life to save our family also there. So his interviews were also very good and interesting and tragic to record, and he gave a lots of thanks to me and archive to doing this work, and he thanked us again and again to save his history and by recording his interview. So lots of interviews. Dr. Harbans Singh, sorry, he's not doctor. Harbans Singh from Moga, Dr. Gunita one, they called me. He's 100 years old person, migrated from Lahore. He was selling vegetables. He was a street vendor to just nurture his grandchildren. Dr. Gunita, she was in America. And then Malkit, go and record his interview. Then I went there and I record his interview. It was a wonderful interview. Then I record and archived it. There are lots of it. The list is huge. Local interviews are there, and some people. I recorded ladies from Nanakana who migrated from Nanakana side. She's the daughter of her father was a head granthi in the Nanakana side, and she was then 12 years old.
Wow, that is fascinating. What's very interesting is, before I joined the archive, like you said, we had to do the webinar and one interview. So I contacted a friend of mine from Lahore, and he recommended Harbans Singh to me. So I almost got in touch with him. I shared an email with him. That's that's an amazing coincidence. Um, and moving on, what are some of the, like, how did your opinion on partition and how did some of the narrative that you had in your head, how did they change after your time with the archive and after you conducted all these 100 interviews?
Yeah, it's a great change, Azim. It's a great change when you meet 100 plus eyewitnesses, and most of them are the direct victim of this violence. So then definitely they will change your mind. Earlier, I know only routine things that violence and the stories of through the Bollywood pictures, Hollywood pictures. So it was just like a drama. But when you meet a common man who lost his land, people started to weeping. People were weeping when I was recording their interviews. They lost their homeland. They want to see it again, but they are helpless. Some people lost their relatives. Some families divided. Some members are living still in Pakistan, and some are here. That this thing is happen with all people. All people means to say with Sikh people, with Muslims also. I recorded Madan Lal Hasiza. He has been a director of the language department of government of Punjab. Then when I record his interview, he told me that scoundrels attacked his family and in a same day killed his 30 family members and put them all into the well. And I was with my mother in my relatives. So when I from where my mother got a news and we migrated to Pakistan. Coincidentally, from the same village, a team of the drama or for literary delegation, you can say that literary delegation. The artist came in 2001 in East Punjab, and he was the director then. Then he welcomed them, and in the end said that they are the same people whose parents killed my parents, but they are innocent. I welcome them, and I offered them, I host them, I had no prejudice. It is that time. It is that time. And now the time is to forget all of things. It was said by Dr. Madan Lal Hasid as the wonderful interview, the wonderful personality. He belongs to Bahawalpur state. And Bahawalpur state, you know, there are lots of Bahawalpuriyas are living in Punjab.
Oh, yeah, that's amazing how he can keep that perspective, having lost so much personally, but he can keep that wider perspective. That's amazing. And finally, Malkit, what difficulties have you found while conducting these interviews, and how do you keep yourself motivated to keep doing so many interviews and you don't get bored with it?
So mainly difficulties are there. Sometimes people don't understand what is the value of the recording, the oral history of the partition. And when we reach to the family members, because the elder people are there, they are near about almost 80 plus people. They are not the decision maker in their families. They depend upon their grandchildren, their son or grandson. So first of all, we have to agree their family members. Sometimes they be or sometimes they ignore us. So it's the big problem, and their health issue is there. Sometimes they lost their memory. Sometimes they don't hear the question properly, and forgetting is also there. And there are so many problems, but I am always motivated. Whenever I get a chance to record any interview, then I go with my camera and record it. I have my personal own strategy to find out the interview and motivate him and request their family, his or her family. Then I record it. So as I am working as a teacher, so in the month of June, when there is a time of vacation, summer holidays, and I go to the people and request them to get them their interview recorded.
Well, thank you so much for that wonderful interview, Malkit. And um, I have this yearning to go to one day, inshallah, I will go to Indian Punjab and my ancestors' homeland, and definitely make sure I go to Malerkot because of the fascinating history you told us about it. And once again, thank you so much for joining us, and have a good night.
Thank you very much, Azim. Thank you.
And for those who are joining us, please tune in next week for another amazing conversation with Raza Naeem, Tarunjit Singh Butalia, and Ehsan Khan. The 1947 Partition Archive is hosting this series to commemorate 75 years of partition. This series is a daily micro podcast series being aired for 75 days between June 3rd and August 17th, except for Sundays, to commemorate the 75th anniversary of partition in 2022. For context, August 17th is the day the Boundary Commission announced the Radcliffe Line separating India and Pakistan, exactly 75 days after the Partition Plan was announced on June 3rd, 1947. Thank you very much again, and please show us your love and support by sending the hearts and like emojis under the video. For any query, DM us on social media or connect with any of our team members. Thank you, good night, and good day.